So you hear a lot of times you have to get uncomfortable to grow. Well, let me just say there's a difference between being uncomfortable because you need to grow in something and being uncomfortable because you absolutely hate it.
All right, everyone, welcome back to the show. Today we have a guest named Angel, and she has been in the real estate game for a while, right? I'm looking forward to having this conversation with her because she has connected with me with another Marine who is active duty and has been in the game for a while and been an incredible me and him. Hush the investor, Hush the Marine investor. If you're out there, you're listening, shout out to you. You're a good friend, good brother of mine, and it's good to see what you're doing and seeing the trajectory that you're on. Angel, without further ado, please introduce yourself to the audience. Let them know, get a warm and fuzzy
Absolutely.
about
Okay, my name is Angel Williams. I am the face of our educational platform. It is called the Academy Presents Real Estate Investing Rocks.
you.
And that's kind of where we're heading off into for my piece is I'm going to carry on the education. But we also have been in this game of just real estate for about 20 years. We bought our first house in 2003. We lived on it while Jason was finishing up his doctorate, and it became our first rental. And we moved here to Wichita Falls and got a few more houses. Now we have a total of four here. We've got two apartment complexes here, a 72 unit and an 88 unit. We just got through buying another 20 units with Jason's family. And so it's just like a family JV.
Hmm.
So we're up to 185 and it's just been neat. We are the lead sponsors on both of our deals here. We've never been anything other than lead sponsors. So that's not a normal thing for people to say.
Nice, yeah. Lead sponsors for both of the deals, huh? Oh man. What made you jump into real estate in the beginning? I know you probably have more to say, but I want to the audience just to get a good understanding of. I typically let the audience or the guests speak on why they jumped into real estate, what made them start from either single family or multifamily space, and it would just be great to hear your story on how you and your husband got started in the real estate game.
No, absolutely. So Jason and I actually both come from families that invested in residential real estate.
Mm,
I was raised by my grandparents. My grandparents had a small portfolio. Jason's parents had a larger portfolio. I want to say they have 40 or 50 residential multis, so duplexes, triplexes, and quads. And so they've got that going on. And so I tell the story a lot, and I'm always thinking back in my head about it. But when Jason graduated, we never talked about selling that house in Lubbock.
mm,
Never once.
mm.
We just started talking about making it ready and who we were going to find as a property manager. And it was just like natural progression. It just became our first rental. And we never discussed it not being a rental. We never discussed selling it. And I think that's another reason why our very first renter was horrendous. I don't think this particular person made it a month and they left all of their stuff behind. And so we had to pay $500 just to get the stuff removed and then do another light make ready. And I think because we had seen the ups and downs so much in our own families that we were like, okay, well, let's get the next renter in there. Whereas some people would have turned tail and ran, we just saw it as this is something that happens and we're gonna get ready for the next one. The next one's gonna be better.
Yeah, I think that in itself is just one of the components where a lot of people don't want to get into real estate investing. It's because of that particular incident that you had. This was the first month, so it's like, oh, there it goes. That's exactly why I don't want to get into real estate. The guy is a squatter or ended up leaving the place a mess or destroying the property. Now you have to come out of pocket to pay for this stuff on top of paying the mortgage, et cetera, et cetera. So they're taking more times out of your hand, taking more money out of your pocket. It can be frustrating. So with that was a single family home, correct? And
Mhm.
not the multifamily say. So you had the single family issue with that tenant. Did you vacating the house itself and either like letting the tenant go or because it was it a 1 month lease, 2 month lease, 3 month lease? Or
So no. So they actually they skipped in the middle of the night.
oh, okay, got it. Yeah. So
So it was
it's
a
hey,
non-issue.
easy. Yeah, yeah. Go ahead, change the locks and get all this stuff out. We ain't got to go
Yeah, I do
through
a light
any
maker.
legal ramifications of all the resident having
You
to pay
know,
the
the property
residence cost.
management company took care of it for us. We don't.
Yes.
We've never self-managed.
Hmm. So always had a
Um,
third party property management team. Okay.
well, I mean, I
And
watched my grandparents go and collect rent at the first of every month,
hmm,
and it was always in cash, or the renters would come by and drop it through the little mail slot. But they were very hands-on. Whenever anything went wrong, they were calling the plumbers. They had a like little storage shed where they had backup stoves and fridges and AC units. And so, I mean, they were very hands-on, and I knew I didn't want to be that way, especially as I watched my grandparents age and continue to have to do that stuff.
yeah, that takes away a lot of time and just a lot of physical, like you get exhausted when you're doing it yourself. So having a third party, like it takes a lot of time off your hands and giving you time back, buying your time back. So with
Absolutely.
that third party property management team, would you say was that from the family or how did you find that the property management team?
Um, that house in Lubbock, the broker that sold it to us had a property management company, and that was who we went with.
Okay.
And then we wound up changing, I think maybe 2 or 3 months later. And and this was 2006. So we've had that same property manager since 2006.
Oh wow. So they've been doing a great job then.
They're doing all right. It's
Okay.
handleable.
Yeah.
And then we got the ones here like 2010, 2013 when the economy was doing kind of crappy. And then we wound up with two empty. So we were paying three mortgages. And that was humbling. I had to go to the
Mm,
church and get help for Thanksgiving. And then I had
mm,
to turn right back around and go back to the church and ask for help for Christmas because that was when my youngest two siblings had moved in with us too.
mm.
And so there was just a lot of stuff going on. And that kind of all straightened out after about probably 6 months. And then Jason, my husband, he started learning about multifamily. I want to say it was 2017, maybe. We went to an event in Grapevine and Joe Fairless was the speaker. And I knew we wanted him to be our coach, but dang it, he was 12,500, and that was so much money to me as a teacher. We're not even going to talk about where it's at now. But I was like, you know what? We'll be fine. Peter Harris was his first coach. We'll go to Peter. Peter's cheaper. We'll learn. He created Joe. He can do the same thing for us. It was not a good fit. And for about a year and a half, we floundered. So in the end, we still wound up hiring Joe. At this point, he's not 12.5. So I didn't just cost us the additional dollars, I cost us a year and a half of time.
Mm,
And I look back and I'm like, where would we be if we had that year and a half back?
think that is incredible too, because that is why it's important to, yeah, these individuals that's been in the game for a while, they can be pricey, but I think I shared this story with a good friend of mine. How much time are you willing to give up, or how much time do you want to buy back? Do you want to buy back your time? If so, this would more than likely be a good investment for you, a good investment opportunity. Because guess what? I'm pretty sure this individual is going to raise those prices because they still have to pay for their mortgage. They still have to pay for their kids' college. They still have to pay for their business to continue to run. Things are getting more expensive. I'm pretty sure these prices are going to go up. So it'd be best for you to invest in yourself right now. Save that time, save that energy, and catapult yourself to success with buying this individual's program because they will help you succeed if they have a good reputation. And I think that's what
Well, you
made
got to
me
find
want
the
to
one you
get.
click with,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
you know?
You can't just like you said the first one. You went with the cheaper route.
Well, I'm sure he's a great guy,
Oh yeah, yeah,
but
and
we
not
didn't,
knocking them.
we didn't
Yeah,
click with the program. I
yeah.
didn't like the way it was set up and it was just hard. And
It just wasn't for you. Like you said, you got to find your good fit, and ended up finding it, and here you are now in the multifamily space. You said your husband started getting into the multifamily space. Your family was still residential in the residential area, right? What made you jump? I guess maybe your husband. The husband did a little bit of.
so we actually, so let's see, at that point in time, we have 3 kids. I don't know. But things really changed when we had our son in 2010. We got 4 kids now. He turned out, it turned out that he had a really rare genetic condition and he's very expensive. And so there was this understanding that we wanted to create this legacy wealth. And sure, singles were fine before. But now, I mean, like with Anson's ABA treatment, his ABA alone is 100 to 125,000 a year. And that's with insurance. Like when we pay 36,000, I think a year in insurance premiums or whatever, but anything under 100 to 125 is still better. But we saw these expenses piling up, and he has really profound autism, and he has Duke 15Q, and he's still in diapers. He's 13 now, and we have these expenses. Yes, they're deductible, but you still have to front the cost. And so we started looking at how are we going to create this legacy? How are we going to do the things that we want to do now if we don't have something bigger going on?
Mm.
Because, owning your own residential stuff is great. You get to make all your own decisions. But that huge chunk of change that happens on a turn, it's not the same. Yeah, sure, all our residential stuff is infinite returns. But, unless we're gonna try and cash out refi every, 7 years, it doesn't make sense.
Right.
So that was one of the other benefits because really cash flow on a multifamily is really similar to what you're going to make in a single. It's not the cash flow, it's the chunk of change you get back on those refis and turns.
Yeah.
And so that was where we really saw the drive. And I think that was what really Jason was sucked in first, and then I was sucked in later.
I think and then having that experience in the back end with the single family projects that you already had kind of helped you understand, like with multifamily, yes, it's more units that you have to deal with, but you know, it's still pretty much a single family project, just multiplied times 70 or times 80. And uh, yes, you're going to probably deal with more problems here and there, but it's still, you're going to have a team. It's not just going to be you managing a property. You're going to have property management and contractors who can come and fix the plumbing and do whatever else that you need to do with that multifamily project. So I think
And the other big
understanding.
difference too,
Mm.
oh,
No, go
the
ahead. Go
other
ahead.
big difference too is like in your residential stuff, you're going to have like one property manager that takes care of everything, one person. Whereas in multifamily, you are purchasing a business. We
Mm.
have personnel, we've got the office staff, we've got maintenance guys, we have our regional, we've got personnel dedicated to the property. So now I don't have to follow up with someone and say, hey, did you call the roof guy? Do I need to call the roof guy? Do I need to call Frankie over here and get him to go plumb the house? I mean, what do I need to do here? Like, I don't have to do that stuff.
Yeah.
We just follow up with the management team because it's a whole team and we say, hey, where are we at with this repair? Where are we at with these estimates? Where are we at with these things that we don't have to do those? We just need to stay on top of them so that we're doing what we need to be doing for our residents and our investors.
Would you say, as far as you and the multifamily projects, I know you and your husband work together. What would you say your niche is? What do you do for the multifamily side? Or are you the investor relations gal, or is he, or what are y'all just work
So
together next to you?
Jason's the underwriter.
Okay.
We have a proprietary spreadsheet. He created the whole thing. And then I just kind of do all the relationships. So I have a really good memory. And so
Mm.
I know a lot of people. And so that's kind of where I fit in. As far as raising capital and investor relations, we really tag team that.
Mm.
On our first property, we raised $1 million. I'd never raised capital before. He'd never raised capital before, but it was just, we fall into a rhythm and it works. And
Mm.
he's got his introverted side of people that want to talk to him. And I've got my people that can handle 200% angel because that's where I'm at sometimes. And so we just tag team it. And then if somebody wants to hear numbers, this is kind of one little trick because I don't like working on weaknesses. I only work on my strengths so that I become just like this powerhouse, right? And so I was telling people up front, I really don't want to learn the numbers. And my friend Sandy, I was like, you need to learn how to underwrite. You need to learn how to do the numbers. I'm like, I don't want to learn how to do the numbers. And so one time she and I were sitting on the summary page of the underwriting, and she's like, do you know how much you paid for the property? And I'm like, or she's like, do you know how much your loan is for? I'm like, I don't know. And she's like, share your screen.
Mm.
And she's like, well, I see it. And I'm like looking at all these numbers on the screen. I'm like, nausea, like waves of nausea coming over me because I hate the numbers.
Mm,
And I just hit this point where I'm like, I don't want to do numbers. And so I spread that to people. I'm like, look, I'm not the numbers person. I'm the extrovert. I'm the connector. I'm going to talk to everybody because that's what I do. I talk, but I don't want to do the numbers. And if you want to hear about the numbers, you need to talk to my husband.
mm.
Well, the first time I knew that the message had gotten across was when somebody called me and said, "Hey, Angel, I wanted to talk to you about, oh, wait, is Jason around? I know you don't know the numbers." It was like a knife to the gut the first time somebody said that to me. But then I was like,
Yeah.
wait a second,
Mm,
this is what I want.
mm,
And I had other people tell me, they were like, you're never going to be able to get anybody to invest with you because you don't do the numbers. But it's actually been quite the opposite because they know Jason does do the numbers. And he's usually close by or with me when we're at an event or I'm on the phone. So
I think,
it's worked out.
yeah, it's worked out. Like, because I know a lot of people always state, you need to know your numbers, you need to know your numbers, you have to know your numbers, you have to know something of underwriting. And you're a true example of no, no, you don't. As long as you have someone that you trust that has been doing the underwriting, that loves the numbers, that deals with the
Mhm.
spreadsheets, that can do that, you as long as you have a good partnership with that person and trust them, then of course you're gonna pass that on to the person that deals with the numbers. That makes a lot of sense. And then you honed in on your skill of connecting with people, and having those connections has helped you and your husband like be multifamily investors yourselves. So again, knowing your strength is is important too. Like if you know what your strength is and you hone in on that one particular strength, then you're going to be very strong at it. You're going to make make sound decisions on your projects and what you can and can't do. So I enjoy that. I like that partnership that you and your husband have. Hey, give it to Jason. Anything with numbers, give it to Jason. Jason has it. He
And
got
so people, they have both of our cell phone numbers. So
it.
every now and then I get looped into a conversation. But if they want to do numbers or something, they usually just call him.
Mm,
And it's been really neat. And I think too about like, so you hear a lot of times you have to get uncomfortable to grow. Well, let me just say there's a difference between being uncomfortable because you need to grow in something and being uncomfortable because you absolutely hate it. It's not
mm,
always just being uncomfortable. It's why are you uncomfortable? Are you uncomfortable because you hate it? It makes you feel nauseous, like you start turning green? Or is it you feel uncomfortable because you're not very knowledgeable in it? So you feel insecure about where your knowledge level is. So if you can identify the difference, man, don't waste your time in your weaknesses because even after you worked on your weaknesses, you're still at the baby stage. And that's just going to make you be mediocre. I mean, I sit back and I think about when I decided to just be that relationships person, I find patterns in things that I never really saw before.
mm.
And so I think about like how far I've come in my soft skills and relationship skills in the past, 4 or 5 years. And I think about how far Jason's come in underwriting when that became his sole focus.
With with that being said, I think you also stated you was a teacher.
Mhm.
Yeah. What made
Yes.
are you still a teacher? Or did you quit your W
No,
two?
I
So
had a
you
horrible principal, so I left because of her.
oh well there you go. Thank you,
No,
principal,
I
whoever your
taught
name
on and
is.
off for 17 years. I finished up I guess it was my last 2.5 years at a high poverty middle school. I was I taught writing 1 year and then I switched over to English language arts the next year. Or no, I did writing 2 years. And I love teaching.
Mm,
I love those kids. And, they came from hard places. And so and I think that's kind of where some of the persistence comes from too. Like I had persistence with my son, being on the phone with insurance with him when they didn't want to cover anything for him and then being in teaching where we've got kids that high poverty children, they don't do a lot to maintain skills over the summer. And it's not their fault. It's nothing like that. They don't have the same resources as children who are middle class or above. And so what you see is that they learn at the same speed, but then your more affluent children continue to learn over the summer. And
mm,
so like you're moving kind of like this, and then here's your affluent kids. Well, the next year they learn at the same speed. So they're moving at the same speed again, but then the affluent kids just keep getting further and further ahead. And my babies were, God, some of them were 4 years behind. So I'm teaching seventh grade and eighth grade, and we're talking to fourth grade reading level. And that was hard. But my children knew I loved them. They loved me, and they worked their butts off for me. And that made me really happy. I had a really good relationship with the majority of them. I was one of the few teachers that didn't get stole from. Uh, so
That
I
means
knew that they liked
they
me.
like you a lot.
Yeah. So, but it was,
Um,
I mean, I think
yeah.
that that makes me better too on the educational side of the real estate also, because I come from a different place. I mean, I used to earn, how would I even earn? My first year teaching, I made 15,000 a year with a master's degree. I mean, I know what it's like to not make anything.
Exactly.
So,
That's just asinine to me that a teacher whose main goal is to get these kids to see potential within
so
themselves and
yeah.
grow within themselves. I don't know. I had this conversation yesterday with someone about how teachers should be getting paid more, a lot more than what they should be, because they are actually teaching some lifelong skills for these kids to grow up in, for them to be paid as less. I know some professionals in college or whatever, they get paid a certain amount, but I think all teachers across the board should be getting paid way more than what they
Yeah.
should. You had a master's degree. And I just don't understand.
Well, it was
15.
a private school. Now, the next year
Okay.
I went public, but
Yeah.
I was teaching K through five music. My master's is in economics.
Mm.
Uh, but I'm teaching K through five music because I've been playing piano since I was four.
Yeah. That's okay.
And then I was in some choirs and stuff. But like, I went from 15,000 to 31,000 the next year when I went to public school. And then
Mm.
when I quit teaching in 2020, I think I was making like 50, maybe 55. I don't actually know because I wasn't teaching for the money. I was teaching one because it got Anson, our son, the insurance he needed before we were able to get our own. But it got him some insurance. But I just love teaching. And so it was never really about the money. But I know not all teachers are like that, but that's
You
how it was for me.
you were still doing real estate kind of on the side, right? It wasn't just the teaching, it was
But we've
the
always had our real estate side
yeah,
hustle.
right. Yeah. So it was you still was doing what you love and still dealing with the real estate side of things too, still doing a real estate business. That's that's another story that oh man, I'm sure you had ups and downs where you had your W-2s and stressors, and then you had to get off job, deal your real estate, and on top of being a mother of a kid with autism and dealing with all the insurance issues. Oh man, I'm sure we got some up and down stories that you
I've
can
got
talk
stories for
about.
days.
Mm, mm,
But no, my just to kind of about the life skills piece of it, I knew that some of my students would never ever be on a plane. Now I hate flying,
yeah.
but when I was flying back from I was grading AP exams and I was flying back and I asked the flight attendant if I could have some of those biscotti cookies because that's my favorite part of flying is those cookies. And she gave me a whole sleeve to come back and share with my students.
Mm,
And so you only get two per package, but we were breaking them up in four.
mm,
And the kids were sharing those because I wanted to give them that experience. You know, you may never be on a plane, but I want you to know that this is my favorite part of flying, and I hate flying.
mm. I
So,
I know how I'm pretty sure those kids enjoy that, and they're like maybe that inspired them to maybe want to be something more than what their environment's giving them. And I hope they do. And I know what it's like growing up in a low income house, having a teacher that actually cares and doing whatever they can to get those kids to see beyond what they have in front of them and just dream big. It's just I always commend the teachers. I want to sorry for the teachers that I gave trouble to, but I do enjoy that story and your resilience and hearing your resilience through all the turmoil that you're going that you have went through, you and your husband. And I'm sure those four kids, they love you and they love you and your their dad to death just because you guys are doing the right thing and taking care of them, and your lifelong experiences has put you in the position that you're in now to you can share those stories and share with the audience what you're going through, and that this is possible for them too. So it's just
No, and
all you
that was
really.
something I got to share with my students too. And
Yeah.
I'll never forget one little girl came up to me one time and she's like, Miss, do you really think this is something I can do? Because I always tell them, your current situation doesn't have to be your destination.
Mm,
And she said, is this really something I can do? And I was like, absolutely. He's like, well, my daddy says all I'm ever going to be is a wife and mom. Like, oh, honey.
mm.
And she joined my Facebook group. I've had a couple of kids over the years come to my meetup because I would talk about it. One time I had a kid tell me, he goes, Miss, what do you actually do? Because you got a different swagger than the rest of these teachers around.
Like, what is your secret?
Like there's no secret.
Mm,
But real estate's a really smart investment,
yes, it is. It's the
but you got to
vehicle.
ride the ups and downs.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. You got to be willing to take those bumpy rides and go along with it, or continue on and persist, or it'll degrade you and make you want to quit. If it just there are those times, we go through those times. That's probably one of those times I'm going through right now with one of my single family projects. Uh, it's just it can be stressful, but it can also create a different path than what you were originally on with just a regular W-2. So,
Well,
um,
and then you have to remember too that like in real estate, it's not if it's going to happen, it's when. And the 20 units that we just bought with family, we closed on Wednesday. We met on Monday to a slab leak. And it could have been a one pipe reroute, but they wound up replumbing the entire unit. And it was like $8,500. It still took them 5 days. The resident had no water for 5 days. And I'm just like, it's right before Christmas. I'm like, this is not
yes.
cool. This
No,
can't
it's not.
happen. And then the family is like, well, you know, why are you being so aggressive? I'm like, we've dealt with slab leaks in 4 different properties, and it's never been over $2,000, except for the multifamily. The multifamily, it was more. But on our residential stuff, but I knew enough to say, make sure you pro press it. Don't do the shark bite thing because the shark bite you have to always have access to because we have the shark bite in our closet. We have the pro press under our kitchen sink. We got new flow, which is the polymer on another sink, and then we did a reroute through the attic in another one.
Like lesson learned for sure. Because if you if you didn't have all those things, if this was new to you, you probably wouldn't know where to start, or maybe know where to start, know who to ask. But it just would have been more of a nightmare for you, and finding the right ways to fix the issues that was going on with that slab leak. So I can, yeah,
Yeah.
that can be costly if you're not taking care of that ASAP. So yeah, good on you for being aggressive, taking care
I
of
don't
it.
know if it got it done any faster, but no, it's so two of our family members live in Saudi Arabia. And so decisions are being made there. They're like 9 hours ahead of us or behind us or so. I don't know. They're different from us.
Yeah.
Um, when Jason used to travel to India, I would flip it and then subtract 30 minutes. Because if it was like 11 a.m. here, it was like 11:30 p.m. there or 10:30 p.m. there. And so I'm really bad with time zones though.
Yeah.
And so it's really hard when we're so distant, but we can get on Zoom. And so it's like Jason's mom, Jason's sister, her husband, and then me and Jason. And we bought the 20 unit set together. And there was an
Nice.
agreement before it was ever bought that there would be no I told you so's.
So far, so good, huh?
Yeah. It's been
No.
more of like sometimes I don't it's a lot of imposter syndrome too. And
Mm,
I don't realize what I've learned in the last 20 years. Or I guess, yeah, like 20 years. And when I was adding it up, Jason and I both have 20 years because my experiences are at a different level than his. Like, we experience things differently. And then Jason's mom has like 40 years experience with residential multis. And so I'm like, you've got 80 years of experience here.
you,
Utilize us.
yes, please do. Please do. That experience and knowledge, it just, you can't beat it. Yeah. And it's very, very helpful when it comes to any type of problems that you have. You guys got 80 years experience between the three of you. So yeah, yeah. Why not lean on that experience? Lean on that
Well,
experience
it's
when it comes to
hard too
these
because
problems.
the parts of the family that live, half a world away, their experience was on the GP team with us on our second multifamily property.
Mm,
So we've got both residential and commercial multifamily experience. So we've got two different lenses to look through.
yeah,
And so when the pricing was 65 plus a $2,000 expedite, it was like, well, that's about how much it is if we do anything at the apartments. I'm like, these aren't apartments.
yeah.
This is a single unit carrying a residential load on the
Mm,
pipe, one family. And so, but when your only experience is in one type, you can't, it's harder to cross over and see it that way
mm,
because you get used to hearing those big numbers because that's when you hear a multifamily that all you do is add a zero, that's not exactly true. It's just not, but the numbers are bigger.
right.
And so you get used to hearing these big numbers. You get used to talking in millions of dollars on purchases. And to flip into residential, it's like, oh, wait, that house was 55,000. Oh, wait, that house was 100,000. And so you have to be able to switch back and forth between those kinds of price differences and cost differences. And
Wearing
so
different
that's where
hats.
I feel like,
Yeah.
yeah, we're really strong in that. And I don't know. I won't say like, yeah, I will. I think if my husband had said it and not me, he would have been called, it's not aggressive. What do they call it in men? Oh, assertive.
Assertive, very assertive type, A type, macho man or whatever, right? You
Hmm.
know? Yeah.
But
Hmm.
because it was me, it was aggressive. But it's all good. It was just I I am fearful of what can be done legally because you can't in Texas you have to supply heat. You don't have to supply AC, but you also can't put your residents' health at detriment. So there's some weird ways to work around that. So just so you know, and then they have to have running water. And so I was like, on all of our slab leaks, they were fixed the same day.
Yeah.
The new flow was, it was like a hobble along kind of fix until they could do
Mhm.
the new flow stuff, which is the polymer that lines the pipe. But it was a hop along repair to get us there on the same day. So it, the fact that it took as long as it took just kind of blew my mind.
Yeah. This one took, oh, you said 5 days, right?
Yes, it happened at like 2:30 in the morning on Monday, and I don't think it was completed until Friday.
That's,
And that was right before Christmas.
oh, yeah. That had to be rough, especially with the residents. What did you end up doing with the residents? Like, did they stay in the place? Did you?
So her brother lived down the road or something.
Okay.
And so she just went and stayed with her brother. I, I don't know. It's like something's got to be offered to this lady. Like
Yeah.
she was displaced for like a whole 5 days, like a whole week. That's
Yeah. And around Christmas.
so,
So, yeah, that had to be rough. And then if hopefully no legal ramifications come with that because, like you said, with that being that's a Texas law that you have to ensure that running water is running. That's part of
yeah.
the living conditions for the resident. And how, thank God it happened only to this single family. It's a single family, right? Single family.
It's one side of a duplex.
So there you go. One side of the duplex, not both sides. So imagine that happening to a whole multifamily project. Oh my goodness. Just,
Well, we've had, oh, like I said, I got stories for days.
I'm
We
sure
had
you
all
do.
the gas. We had all the gas have to be cut off on our very first multifamily property. It was on Thursday before Easter. And it's all gas. The water is gas. The dryers are gas. Like the stove is gas. It was all out.
Oh,
And
eh,
the city offices were closed on Friday, so we couldn't even get an emergency permit.
Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I had to wait until Monday. Ugh.
And then I think we were already getting units back up by the beginning of the week. So our buildings back up. So buildings were already getting back up on like Tuesday and Wednesday. I think I can't remember if we rehoused or not. I think we did rehouse one building, or that might have been a water thing. So yeah, there's always problems.
All these
I
problems,
think we
they
rehoused on the collapsed drain.
mm, all these problems that made you resilient. I tell you that. Resilient,
Yeah,
finding,
but you learn.
yeah,
You
you
learn so
definitely,
much.
yeah, definitely
And
learn.
that was one of the benefits too of us being lead sponsors on our very first deal. And then we were lead sponsors on our second deal. We've only done the two, well, and the JV deal.
Mm.
We have learned so much. Like we had been with Joe for 2 or 3 years before we ever got that first property under contract. And when things started happening, I felt like I knew nothing.
Mm.
And I'd read the book, I've been to conferences, I've been talking to people. I feel like I know things, but it felt like I knew nothing. So that first year was like learning, like drinking from a fire hose. It was insane.
Yeah.
But I feel pretty secure in our skills now. At least where we're at, I feel like we know so much more than we did when we first got started in it,
If
and
I tell you what, if I come to a problem, I think I can come to Angel Williams and her husband Jason. Help me out here, if I
we
ever
will
come
figure
to a
it out.
problem. Yeah, we'll figure it out. But yeah, getting close to time here. I think I've lost myself in these in these conversations that we've had. So I
Sorry.
enjoyed the conversation. I enjoyed this show. Let's get the audience members to connect with you if they want to connect with you. How can they
Absolutely.
connect with you or Jason?
Okay, there's a few different ways. Jason and I are both on LinkedIn, and I'm pretty sure he answers his direct messages like I do. I try and stay on top of them. So that's a really great place to get a hold of either of us. He is like Jason L. Williams, comma PhD, I think, and then I'm just Angel Williams. We also have our website. He's got his. I don't want to get it wrong. I think it's ironcladunderwriting.com. I hope I got that right. And then I've got the academypresents.com. That's kind of both of ours. Links to the podcast, we do a virtual meetup every Monday. All of those links are there. We do have a community page over on the Mighty Networks because that's really cool. And Brian Briscoe does it. And I copy a lot of what he does.
Yeah, Brian Briscoe is awesome. I enjoy him. He's good. If you ever get a chance to connect with these individuals, Jason and Angel Williams and Brian Briscoe, shout out to you. Love you, man. He's also a veteran,
Well,
Marine
he's a
veteran.
Marine too.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so is David Perret.
David Bray, yep.
He's military to millionaire. And
Hmm.
then of course ADPI has a smattering of all branches, I think.
Yeah, I'm also in ADPI too, active duty passive income. They deal with veterans. They deal with spouses of veterans. They deal with active duty reservists. All military members are welcome there. Shout out to Kevin and his team, Kevin Brenner too. They all doing great things up over there at ADF PI, and I enjoy being in that community. And I haven't been active the last couple of months. It's just because I'm busy myself, but I still see the work that they do, and it's tremendous. But Angel, it's been great. We're gonna put all that
It's
stuff in
fun.
the show notes. Make sure we have the links all together.
Correct.
But yeah, we'll put that in the show notes, and that's how people can connect with you. It's been great having you
Absolutely.
on, and hopefully the next time we can have Jason on too, so you both can collaborate and go at each other.
Yeah. Yeah. We could do something.
Yeah. All right, it's been incredible having you on. Thank you for sharing your story, and looking forward to having
Absolutely.
more conversations like this in the future.
Awesome.